The one which I'm not sure is in that suite actually that has performed best over the last couple of years is one that has vacancies in it. I mean, formally the ratio of vacancies to unemployment, so the rate of unemployment still matters for that. But vacancies, a few other indicators of labour market tightness. You can ask, there's a question in a couple of business surveys about the availability of labour. Our own agents ask their contacts about that question. And those have proved quite useful as well. So I don't think we have no other indicators to tell us about that sort of pressure, even if I agree that there's a little more uncertainty than usual. And, you look at the forecasts for unemployment with a big fat fan around them. Just one final point about wage growth. And it's true that the slack in the labour market does matter a lot, and it's one central means or channel through which monetary policy works, for example. Actually, I think the bigger influence over the last 2 years has simply been spot inflation, all these global shocks that we've been talking about, and those drove the vast majority of the upward moves in inflation, and they've driven just about all the moves down from the peak over the last year. And perhaps for our short-run expectations for households, those have been the biggest influence. So our expectation that wage growth will continue to fall is mainly the result of the declines in spot inflation that we're getting from drops in core goods inflation, drops in energy inflation. That's not to deny that we still have uncertainty about the rest of the determinants, including slack in the labour market. But for my part, I feel reasonably confident that wage growth will edge down a little further over the next few months. But I don't deny that it makes life a little harder when we're not exactly sure what the current rate of unemployment is.
Ms. Green, how do you feel about this, particularly given your insights as to...
Please don't worry about the bell. Okay.
What goes on in the US? Because clearly the trend post-COVID here has been very different to the US and indeed a number of other markets. In the US we saw a number of women coming into the market that hadn't been in work before. We saw people with disabilities coming into the market, another group it's very hard to identify. So do you share Dr. Broadbent's concern, but not over concerned, or you're a bit more concerned about the robustness, given how important where the labour market is going and particularly wages? Do you feel, making your decision, you really are going to be in a position to make it with all the evidence you need, or enough?
Yeah, so I think uncertainty around the data certainly produces uncertainty for us, but I will highlight that while we don't have fantastic data on inactivity versus unemployment, actually there is a lot of data in the UK that isn't provided elsewhere on how this all impinges on wage growth and therefore my monetary policy stance. I would reiterate the point that Ben's made, which is the biggest driver.
All right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to you, wherever you are in this beautiful world. Welcome to our Inner Circle Live pre-New York session. I'm your host, Ryan Carthage. We'll be joined shortly by my awesome partner, Mr. Benny Allen. Hope everybody is doing well today, this beautiful Tuesday morning. All right. As always, just trying to follow the strikes, grab the pen and paper, let's take lots of notes, and let's make sure that we participate and engage. All right. Some of you hopped on a little early, right on time. We're streaming the monetary policy report hearing for the Bank of England. Interesting conversation. We'll chat about that. But before we dive fully in, we want to make sure that we are taking massive action. And there we go. accepting all possible losses before entering a trade, centering yourself, body, mind, and spirit, ensuring a balanced approach to trading, trust in your education, strategy, and trading skills and intuition. Imagine your trade successfully materializing, obeying your trading strategy, avoiding decisions based on greed or fear, and never looking back once or stopping once your trade has commenced. All right, so let's get into it. The Bank of England monetary policy report hearing. It's been an interesting conversation, but they're testifying on the details of the monetary policy decisions, what's happening in the economy, and how and why they're making the decisions that they're making. And there's been tons of questions around rate cuts and why they haven't chosen to cut rates yet, and why do they feel like it's still too early to cut rates? So it's been an interesting conversation. Governor Bailey has been pretty firm on stating that the data has not really proven that it's time to cut rates yet. He went through a thought process of talking about how they may get to their 2.5% range by spring. However, they do then anticipate inflation to then increase for the next few months. So there'll be a fluctuation and a back and forth in inflation, and then they anticipate by the end of the year being at around 2.75% on their inflation target. So it's been an interesting conversation. If you guys get a chance, definitely, I put the link in the community. Go back and check it out. It's interesting to hear the words that they say and the conversations that are being had, and the thought process behind the decisions that have been made and the decisions that are being made. So so that's what that started at 5:15 this morning. So that's what's happened this morning. Going back to yesterday, you had meeting minutes coming out of Australia. I didn't have a chance to dive into those. One of the things I did see, though, was that it kind of reiterated what occurred when during the press conference after the rate statement was given, and essentially that rate hikes are not being taken off the table. So it'll be interesting to see how the Reserve Bank of Australia moves forward and how the data comes out to see if that narrative starts to change at any point. But they're kind of in the same boat as the Bank of England, saying that there could be a chance for inflation to tick up before it moves down to their target. So something to keep in the back of our minds there. Coming up later on today, we have Canadian CPI data at 8:30. It'll be interesting to see how that data comes out. Our Euro CAD trade has been moving. We'll take a look at that. Get an idea of how that could potentially impact the Euro CAD. Then tonight we have wage price index quarter over quarter for the Australian dollar. Then tomorrow, not a ton of high impact news, but FOMC member Bostic speaking at 8 o'clock. MPC member Dingra, I think that's pronounced, speaking at 9 o'clock, coming out of the UK. Then member Bowman speaking at 1 o'clock in FOMC meeting minutes. This is where the eyes are focused initially for this week to see what specifically was discussed during the rate statement conversation for the Fed. Then moving through the day, flash PMI for the Aussie, manufacturing PMI for Japan. Then on Thursday, we have PMI data coming out of Europe and PMI data coming out of the UK, right? So could either back up Governor Bailey's conversation today or kind of give some contradictory data regarding that. And then you have at 7:30 on Thursday, ECP monetary policy meeting minutes. So that'll be also interesting to understand what the details were from the ECB's conversation, core retail sales for Canada, unemployment claims for the dollar, then flash PMI for the dollar as well, right? So somewhat of a busy middle of the week, and then things slow down towards the end of the week, folks coming to the microphone, members speaking, things of that nature. So that's the overview for the week. Over to trading economics. Let me refresh my screen here. China cuts 5-year rate by most on record. That'll be that's their mortgage rate. They cut that by 25 basis points. We know there's been a major issue when it comes to real estate in China, some of the larger corporations. So that'll be interesting to see how that impacts China. Then we have not a ton. Oil holds near 3-week highs. Obviously, in the U.S., banks were closed yesterday due to President's Day. So starting to get the market moving. We'll see how the market opens around 8:30, 9 o'clock this morning. So that's it from a fundamental perspective. Are there any questions? Any questions on the fundamental side?
I do. I read an article and I lost it, and it said something about China was cut like 5% of their rates or something like that.
Yep.
And I wanted to know the effects of that on oil.
So this is on their for their mortgage rates. The 5-year loan prime rate they cut by 25 basis points to 3.95. So that's more on the real estate side. I don't know if that will have a major impact on oil. Benny, good morning, bro.
Good morning, Ryan. Good morning, everybody.
Doing well. You got any thoughts on Joy's question?
Yeah, it could, because they're trying to stimulate their economy, which could, increase demand for commodities. So that's why you're seeing, moves in the Aussie, moves in the New Zealand dollar, which caught me slipping. I didn't see this one coming. I didn't see. We know we've seen some strength in the Aussie. I still question how long it's going to run with the New Zealand dollar and the Aussie dollar, but you can see it's impacting it because you can get an increase in demand for commodities, right? When you get stimulus, but you assume, hey, that can lead to an increase in demand for oil, right? Because of the role that China plays, right? And they're the largest purchaser of it. But you also have to take into account, which is why you kind of just have to. We see when you're swing trading, higher time frames, you want to wait for everything to see how it plays out, because it could just be pushing things to a high price to get short in some respects. Because at the same time that you say, hey, a stimulus can increase demand, at the same time that's going to weaken the yuan. So, right. Because it's a stimulus measure, so that usually weakens the country's currency. So we'll see, because it can make exports from, for example, New Zealand and Australia more expensive, which can affect the trade balance. So it's early in the game. We know they've taken measures to stimulate before, and their economy is still kind of just fits and starts, right? It's not taking off the way people keep expecting it to. So we'll see what happens with this, see if it stimulates growth, but kind of have to wait and see how it plays out. But early on, you're seeing it move, currencies like the New Zealand dollar and the Australian dollar.
Gotcha. Okay. Joy, does that help?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
You're welcome. Appreciate that, bro. Any other thoughts from a fundamental perspective this morning? Anything that you saw?
No, that's just the main thing. I was looking at the what's going on in China, because it's second largest economy, right? And then as far as those meeting minutes from Australia, they considered that rate hike, but they saw the stronger argument was the pause, for now. So they said they need some time to be certain on inflation decline. Because they also had what was it that I saw? Last report, data on the labor market, that consumption had been weaker than expected.
Yeah.
So that Aussie could be pushing to a high price to get short against some currencies. Like for example, like the Aussie CAD. So we'll see how it goes, but it's been a back and forth tussle January and
Listen,
February.
man, it definitely has, bro.
Yeah,
it
it's been.
definitely has.
Yeah, I'm getting that from all the other investors and stuff that I keep up with and I watch too. It's been a rocky back and forth, So we'll see. I mean, the indices have done pretty well because they just went straight up for the most part. But
Right.
other asset class, Bitcoin of course 52K, may see a correction soon. But other asset, it's been with currencies, it's been a lot of back and forth so far.
Yeah, man, it's definitely been an interesting ride. We continue to say this, and we've been saying it for about a year and a half, but it's been, well, no, since COVID, it's been interesting living through these experiences and seeing how the currencies move in these new scenarios that haven't been seen for a really, really, really long time. In some cases, have never been seen. So it's interesting to live through it and see how the markets move to then be able to say, okay, this is how this impacts the charts, but also this is how this could impact us in our current ecosystem, in our current world communities in the near future.
Yeah, for sure. And I think what's been, is realizing the strengths. Like for example, like what's been saving me with some of the trades that I'm taking L's on, what's keeping me in the game is being long on the yen and realizing that Swissie has been weak too. So that's those trades have been carrying me pretty good while the rest of the market, kind of figures itself out, especially with the dollar bouncing back and forth. So there's some where you can see clear cut, like, okay, this is where the price action is going. And now with the New Zealand dollar, the way it's continued to run, that one was an eye opener for me. But yeah, so some things you can see clearly, especially with that yen and that Swissie, but other ones not so much. So, but it'll shake out. It always does.
It always does. It always does. I appreciate you, bro. Were there any other questions on any of that before we hop into the charts? No? All right, cool deal. All right. So let's take a look at the dollar real quick. We'll go back to the 4 here, and we see we've been continuing to move higher. All right, we'll drop this fib off the high there. Oh, one more over. But we'll continue to see breaks and retests, right? So what we're seeing here, we broke above, came back, retested the level there, pushed up, and now we're coming back down, right? So flip the fib, run it to the upside, and boom, there we go, right? So 382 pushed up, and now we're trying to come back to retest the support level, and then we'll see if we get another bounce to the upside. Like I said, we got meeting minutes coming in tomorrow. That could definitely give us an indication on where the dollar may go, right? But we could see price start to head north before then, right? If we stay above this support level here on the 4. All right, coming back to the daily. Let's clean this up here. And we see on the daily, right, we're pushing deeper into the zone. 618 retracement there, coming back to retest, and we'll look to see if we get another push to the upside, right? Getting closer to that A boundary as we push long, right? So we'll watch to see how the data comes out, see what those meeting minutes have to say, and see if that gives us the catalyst to move to the upside there. All right, so that is the dollar. I want to take a look at and just quickly this pound Aussie. They're having that conversation, right? And we've seen, boom, from a daily time frame perspective, pound Aussie breaking down, right? Also with the that data coming out of China, as Benny just stated, right, impacting the Aussie. We're pushing to the downside off the daily, Okay. We zoom out to look at the larger fib. We have not gotten a 382 yet. All right, so it'll be interesting to see what happens at this daily support level, 191.825. Do we get a pause and a pullback before we continue to the downside, or do we turn and just continue running up, make our way back to 197? Okay, so that's something that I'm watching there. This level is no longer valid. This will be a daily resistance level there. That weekly level has been broken. I'm gonna leave that daily level in. As we're pressing down, we got a daily support level there. Okay, coming down to the 4, you see here on the 4, actually gonna bring this level down. There we go. See on the 4, right, we're pressing to the downside. Daily support comes in at that A boundary, so we could likely take out the A here as we push down to that support level. Okay, so something to watch. As price moves down, you see here on the sub fib, shallow retracement at 118 and 127 zone comes right in line with that A boundary. Okay, so do we see price push here and then give us a bounce back to the upside, right? To Benny's point of how long does this, excuse me, how long does this Aussie strength sustain? Okay, but if that happens, that then puts us in position for potentially, right, if we get to a high price, maybe we get a head and shoulders pattern back down, right? If we don't continue to the upside to get back to that 195 level. Okay, so that's the 4 potential 80-20 on the sub fib at the moment that could turn into our capital fib if we take out that A, right? Coming down to the 1, here we are here, right? We're pushing into that 118, 127 zone now, but we know we got that daily support there. All right, so let's see if we get another push to the downside here and get to that support level, install, and if that level holds, see if we get a retracement to look like that. Okay, so that's your 80-20 on the 1 hour. That's that sub fib to the downside on the 4, right? So we're looking to see if we get that type of action. Okay, and we got confluence also on some of our lower time frames. Come down to the 15, you see that similar to the 1. Push down into the 118, 127 zone with that daily support level there at 191.825. Okay, so even as you trek down through the lower time frames, we've got some confluence of potential 80-20, well, of an 80-20 scenario, even on your 5, right? So let's see if we can get some support here and then see if we get our confirmations to be met for reversal back to the upside. Okay. So that is the pound Aussie. Wanted to cover that one real quick as it's pushing into the zone, just to get our eyes on it and be thinking about it and see if we get some confirmation later on this morning. All right, questions on the pound Aussie? Nope.
Nope.
All right, cool deal. Now let's bounce back. Benny talked about that euro, I mean that Aussie dollar. Want to take a look at it. We did have, I believe it was the sub fib to the upside in 80-20 that got stopped out. Boom. Actually, no. I don't know what I was looking at here. Was it on the lower time frame, Benny? Wait, 15. There we go. 15-minute, we had this scenario here, right? Shallow retracement, 118 and 127 zone. We didn't quite make it to that 382, came a little shy, right? But if you were in this to the downside, that would have been a good spot to take profit. If you did not, price did run to the D extension. Boom, now we got a new AB boundary, right? So we'll see if we get price to reset and give us a pullback here, right? And if the dollar picks up some strength, then we could see, right, a reversal here, okay? So either we get price to continue moving to the downside, and I'll go back to the higher time frames and look at it overall, but lower time frames, either we get that or we get a push into the 118 and 127 zone first, and then see a retracement come. Okay, so let's bounce back to the daily, right? Been talking about high prices to then get short. So daily time frame, we know we've been moving to the downside and we're pulling back now. Okay, so does this move down set us up for a crown pattern, right? Does it set us up for this? Right? So that's also something, excuse me, that I have my eyes on is as we break this daily level here, right? Push up, do we get a pullback and then another move higher to get to that high price, back to that 618 range to then come back down to the downside. We'll see if all of that occurs, but something that I have just in the back of my mind as a potential scenario. Coming down to the 4, you see here we got to that 382, we pushed down into the zone, and now we're pulling back higher, right? So we'll see how deep this retracement goes before we turn over, okay? Got consolidation here that we broke out of, and see, maybe we just stall in this zone, right? Maybe we don't get back up here to foresee that right tip, right? Maybe it's a shallow crown, and we just come back into this range here, and then see the price move back down to the downside. Okay, so tons of different scenarios here from a higher time frame perspective. We'll watch that and see how it goes. Okay, but looking at the back and forth there, right? So then coming back down to the 1 hour, right? We're pushing deeper into that AB boundary. Okay, so we'll see what happens around this range, 78686, a boundary. See if price holds in that zone, or if we push higher to see that deeper crown pattern. Okay. Questions on the Aussie dollar? Nope.
Nope, I think we're good.
Cool deal. The next one is this Aussie Swiss. Pushing into an interesting zone, right? Swissy's been weak, so you see we've just been running to the upside, right? Just been running to the upside. So at some point, do we see a retracement come? Okay, so how far will this run? Daily resistance at 58,382, right? And that's a previous consolidation zone that we broke out of. So let's see where price goes from here. Okay, coming down to your 4. I don't know that I have a fib here on the 4 either. Nope. Let's see. All right, so we'll run these off the high. Boom. And this is where we are on the 4-hour time frame. We already got a 382 pushing back to the upside, right? With that daily resistance at 58,382. We'll see how deep we go before price turns over. And maybe we get a pullback and then another push to the upside, right? Again, Swissy's been weak. So we'll see if that continues to be the case, and a pullback then leads to a continued run, right? You see right now we're strong bullish move to the upside here, okay? Strong bullish move to the upside. So at some point, maybe get a pullback and then continuation, okay? So that leads us to the 1 hour. Boom. We got shallow retracement pushing to the to that 118 level. See if we push a little bit deeper. We're getting some indecision right now. See if we get price to give us confirmation, maybe some consolidation in here, and that pullback before we continue that move to the upside. Right, so there's your 80-20 on the Aussie Swiss on the 1. Okay, use that additional confirmation because, like Benny said, the Swissy has been weak, and that Aussie obviously is running due to that data out of China. Okay.
Ryan, do you still got your downfills on the previous leg?
Give me 1 second. We will look at that. So we're coming off the high here?
Yeah. Cause see, I was waiting for that
okay.
A to be broken.
The A to be taken out. And it could. I follow you there. Yeah, we definitely could see that taken out. If we get another push to the upside, push deeper into that 118, 127 zone. Yep, I appreciate that.
Okay.
Yep. I follow. So there we are, right? Deep into the AB boundary. If we get another push to the upside, that will be your 118, 127 zone, right? Deep in that zone. Okay, so let's watch this and see what we get there. Okay, but there's your setup. Any other questions on the Aussie Swiss? Nope. All right, cool. Aussie CAD. This one will be interesting, right? Because overall, we've been moving down. Okay, we can see that pretty clearly, right? Another scenario where we might be in for a crown pattern, right? Been moving to the downside, got a nice pullback, push back down, got a 50% retracement here, right? But again, what happens with the Aussie and what happens with the Canadian dollar? Okay, but we could be in for crown pattern. Take out the A or see the right tip. And again, a bit of deep crown or a shallow crown, right? Depending on where that reversal comes, right? But crown pattern potential nonetheless here on the daily time frame. So let's watch this and see if we get that right tip to form at some point. Coming down to your 4, this is that move a little more clearly here. Now, this is the back and forth, right? We got a 618 retracement here, daily support, pushing back to the upside. So again, it's going to come down to a fundamental catalyst here on what direction we move. Do we break out to the upside and get to the matching D extension, or do we turn over, get that crown pattern and push back down to the downside? Okay, so we'll watch that from a higher time frame perspective. Coming down to your 1, there's your fib on the 1 coming down, right? And we'll see where we settle in inside that AB boundary on this 1 hour to then get potential C to D move off the highs back down to the low, right? High price to get short, as Benny mentioned. Okay, questions on the Aussie CAD?
No.
All right. Cool. Aussie yen. Still pushing long, right? Benny talked about it as well, right? Being long on the yens. We're running back into this 98.53 level. That daily level got taken out. Running back into this 98.55 level, right? Is it time to break that to make its way to the matching D extension? Right, fibs coming off the low. There we go, right? So can we finally break this level, break, retest, continue to the upside? Right, so that's what we're looking for here to see if we get that motion. All right, we'll look at the dollar yen in a second, because as we see that continue to tick up, we could see the rest of these yen crosses also tick up, and we'll watch the Bank of Japan's narrative as well, because they've already kind of chimed in talking about the potential for intervention if moves are too aggressive. Right, they're okay with the slow trickles to the upside, but they're not okay with the impulsive moves to the upside there. So we'll watch that. We've got a daily support level there. We'll bring that down. So we'll watch 98.55 coming down to the 4, right? Similar story, right? Trying to push to the D extension here. So once we break that level, that D extension will be in sights on the 4 hour for this Aussie yen. But you see, right? Straight to the upside. Got small pullbacks in between, but you see, like, we got some impulsive moves there, but you see pullbacks immediately, right? Pullbacks immediately, pullback, strong push. So anticipating a pullback and then a continuation to the upside. Okay, so we'll watch for that to happen, and then coming down to the 1, right? Pushing into that level, do we get the pullback before we break it? That's what we'll wait to see. Okay, we had a previous 80-20 here, didn't play out, right? Stalled in the zone, pushed down, and then took off back to the upside. So we didn't get a low price to get back long. Okay, so let's see what happens here. Add additional confirmation to these yens if you're going to play the counter trend move, or if you're just waiting for the low price, right? Wait for price to push down into our zone. Right, and then we'll look for continued moves to the upside. Okay, so that's the 80-20 there. If you're going to play the retracement, use the additional confirmation, please. And if not, wait for the low price to get back low. Okay, questions on the Aussie yen? Nope.
No, sir.
All right. What else I got on here? Let's check in on this Euro CAD. Whoops, that's not the Euro CAD. We'll check back on that pound Aussie, but Euro CAD has been moving, right? We'll come into the 4 here. This is our 80-20 on the 4, right? Taking forever, hasn't gotten to the D extension, finally turned over, pushed to the upside, and you see we finally got the break of this daily resistance level. Nice bullish close. Now we're pulling back, all right? Pulling back to retest the range. Pulling back to retest the range. And then see if we get that continuation to the upside. We also got a nice trend line break there. Bullish push, pull back. And so we'll look for a continuation to the upside here. Continue to make its way to the D extension at some point, right? Still got a ways to go. Really just getting started. We're pushing back into that 118, 127 zone, okay? So breakout, look for a pullback, and then a continuation to the upside there on the 4. Coming down to your 1, excuse me, just going to run the sub fibs off the low, right? And we're going to track these moves long. So we got an 8-6 retracement, matching the extension was achieved, and we're pulling back. Okay, so your new AB boundary, once this 1 hour candle closes in 55 minutes, right? As long as that price continues to move down, that new AB boundary will look like that. Okay. So we'll watch and see how that closes. But if we continue to get this retracement, beautiful, and then we'll look for price to move to the upside. And so here's a scenario where we may not get a deep retracement here. Okay. We may not. We might just retest this candle, this last bullish candle here. What was that, at 4 a.m., right? We might just retest that candle and continue long. So this is where Benny's talked about coming down to your lower time frames, 15, 30, 15, 5, and looking for, right, low prices to get back long. So candle overlay. We'll do the 1 hour, right? And so this is that bullish candle on the 1 hour right here. Right, so maybe we pull back and just retest that 1 hour candle. So let's see if price pushes back down into our zone here, right? Gives us a 618 or deeper, and gives us an opportunity on this 15 to then play the C to D to the upside. Okay, you see that D extension on this previous fib was hit, so that's no longer valid. This is our capital fib here on the 15. Okay, here's our candle on the 1. We know off those bullish candles, price likes to take back 50 to 60% of those, right? So that'll play into this retracement here. Okay, so let's see if we can get a low price and then get back long on that, right? On that continued move to the upside. And maybe we don't, because we just broke this daily level and we're retesting that. So if it's in your rules for that, if that level holds and you can take that to the upside off of 382 or 50%, and that's cool, right? So we'll watch and see where that goes from there though. Okay, we'll turn that off. Boom. Right, so we'll watch that on the 15 on the Euro CAD, but looking for this one to continue moving to the upside. So beautiful move so far, excuse me, and we'll look for that continuation there. Okay, questions on the Euro CAD? Nope. All right. Continue to manage your trade as well, right? So prices move quite a ways, right? Depending on what your entry was, right? If you were able to enter off these low prices here, right? Slide your stop in the profit, right? Slide your stop in the profit as price is moving, right? Maybe you take some off the table when you get to high prices, looking for those pullbacks, and then that could give you an opportunity to add to. If you take some off, then you're able to add to it as price continues to move. All right, so that's the Euro CAD. Take a look at the Euro Swissy. Right, Swissy's been weak, and you see we're moving to the upside. right? We're making that staircase to the upside, right? We're taking out the highs, pulling back, retesting, continue moving, right? So we got daily resistance coming in at 95,431. We'll see what happens there, see if we get a pullback and then a continuation to the upside. Okay. That's a daily coming down to the 4. Whoops. I'll run the fibs off the low here. Yeah. All right. Excuse me. So there we are. Just missed the 382 there, pushing to the upside. The 118 and 127 zone comes in line with that daily resistance at 95,431. Right? So do we get pullback to come here? And then get a low price to continue this move to the upside. Okay? So there's another opportunity for us to watch. That's on a 4 hour, so it'll take a little bit longer term swing trade, but see if we get that type of action for continuation, right? We know we got meeting minutes coming out later this week for the ECB. Okay, so could be a fundamental catalyst to give us some of this back and forth, right? To give us the retracement and the low price to then get back long. Okay. So that's on the 4. Coming down to your 1. Right, on your 1, you didn't get the 382. There's a swing back to the upside, but that D extension is in line with that daily resistance level. Okay, so if we get that 80-20 on the 4, right, we get the D extension on the 1. All right, some confirmation of potential retracements coming. Okay, so let's watch this and look for price to continue running to the upside, and we'll see if this level holds and gives us the retracement that we'd be looking for. Okay. Questions on the Euro Swissy? Nope. All right. The Euro Yen. It's been running, right? Been running. So daily time frame. This is where we are. I'll go back to that monthly as well, but daily time frame, this is where we are, right? We haven't gotten to that 382. We're pushing back to the upside. Broke the daily level here, broke the daily level there. Take that out, right? We're pushing long. So we got 164, 269 in our sights. We'll see what happens when price gets there. Do we get a double top and then a push back down, or do we break that and continue moving long to the next level at 169, 852? Right? So we'll monitor this, because it's also going to come in line with the dollar yen, and if the Bank of Japan has anything to say about these moves to the upside, or see if they come in at higher prices also to pipe up to say, hey, we're getting too high. This is impacting us negatively, right? To the monthly time frame, if we get to that 169, 852 is just shy of that 118, 127 zone. All right, so not fully 80-20 on the monthly, but could be a high price, right? All-time high. We've been there once before, right? Back in 2008. Do we get there again? And then do we see move to the downside, right? But all signs are pointing north, right, for the time being. So coming back down to the 4 now. Here on the 4, we had an 80-20 here. We came just shy of the level, right? But we hit the D extension. Okay, we didn't get the full move back down. This was a nice move out of the zone, and then we took off back to the upside. So now we're looking for a reset at some point, right? At some point, we're looking for a reset. And when we get it, we get the swing high. We'll look for a pullback and a continuation to the upside. At least to 164, 318, right? The larger fib here, right? 786 retracement, right? This is our capital fib. This was a sub fib off the C. 786 retracement, so matching the extension makes sense, right? In line with that weekly resistance level. Okay, that 127 zone. All right, so continue move to the upside there. Okay, coming down to your 1. That's also in alignment with the move long. 618 retracement, matching the extension just inside the zone, right? So maybe on a lower time frame, we get a pullback, retest the daily level, and then look for that thing to continue moving long. All right. That is the euro yen. Any questions there? Just checking to see on these lower time frames. Do we have a potential shorter time frame play? Oops. So potential 80-20 on the 15. I'm going to make sure that that's valid from a capital fib perspective. Yep, that should be accurate. There we go. Right. So there's your 80-20 on the 15. Again, use additional confirmation because we may not break this level. This 161,792. So let's watch it and see. Need additional confirmation here. We'll move back down, but 80-20 on the 15 potential intraday play or pullback or low price, and then look to get back long there. Okay. No questions on the euro yen. See what's down here on the 15. Similar to that 15 minute on the 5. Okay, but that 382 on the 5 is in line with that support level, right? So that might line up for us to get even just that short-term retracement, but then to move back to the upside. Okay, so there are your levels on that euro yen. Questions? All right, cool deal. Give me 1 second, everybody. All right. Oops. Oh, cool. All right. All right. So that's the euro yen. Next is let's check back on that pound Aussie, see what the movement to the downside has been. Getting closer to the zone. All right. Continue moving down. So we'll continue to monitor that. We'll check in before we wrap it up to see if that one is where we need it to be. Pound yen. Right, also moving to the upside. Tracking these higher zones. All right. We had fib running off the low. Whoops. All right, so there we are on the pound yen, right? Pushing into that 118 and 127 zone, right? We got a weekly 118 and 127 zone here in line with the weekly resistance. And you see we're trying to break and hold above this monthly level at 188,894. Okay, so looking for a continued move to the upside here in favor of the pound. Okay, so we'll watch that move, and once we get into these higher ranges, then we'll look for those potential reversals coming out. Coming down to the 4, right? You got a 50% push to the upside. The extension in line with the bottom of that weekly 118, 127 zone. Okay, which is in line with that daily 80-20 zone. So continue to move to the upside there. On your one, there you have it. All right, previous 80-20 played out beautifully, gave us a low price. Boom. Right, been talking about staying long on these, right? Finding low prices, 80-20 to a 618. Boom. Right, we got a 382 here. Now we're looking for price to continue moving to the upside. All right, so that's there. Questions on the pound yet? Nope. All right. Then I'm gonna look at the dollar yen. And that's the last one that I got on my radar. The dollar yen, I'm tracking the high prices here, right? So this is on your 4. Okay. This is on your 4. You got your 152. Actually, let's go back to the daily so we can see this on the daily. Pull these out for a second. On our daily, we got the 618 retracement. 152.205 is the D extension that we just missed on the last time we pushed up to the level, right? So, do we get a push to that 152.205 level? Right? These are all-time highs on this dollar yen, right? We've been here twice, likely to get here a third time. Okay, and then what happens from there? Okay, so looking for that D extension to finally get hit. So when we come down to the 4, what that then looks like is this, right? That's where the 80-20 then comes into play. We get to that 152.205 level. Do we then get a reversal in line with this 80-20 not getting to that D extension? Okay, so we're in the zone now, and I'm watching this when I got the trend line running to the upside because we may get a pullback to retest the trend line, right? But I'm not looking for that move, right? So on these yens, the additional confirmation that I'm adding is, right, bounces off the trend lines and pushing to the higher level, right? So that's the action that I'm looking for here on this dollar yen, and it may take its time getting there, which would be okay for the Bank of Japan, right? But will they be okay with anything more than 152.205? Okay, so that's the key level I'm watching there on the dollar yen. That's on the 4. Coming down to your 1. That puts you in line for this here. Right, so if we get that type of action, push into that zone, that also gives us an 80-20 on the 1 hour, right? So we got some alignment in our time frames. Okay, so just call for a little bit of patience and allow price to do its thing, bounce around, and push to those levels. Okay, so that's the dollar yen. And that's what I'm looking for. Any questions on that? Nope.
Good morning.
Marshall, good morning, sir.
Considering how the Bank of Japan kind of sits on their hands often and waits until, I won't say the last moment to intervene, what do you think is the high point when they will say, okay, enough's enough, we've got to do something to lower the price?
Well, like I said, that all depends on the speed in which price moves, right? If we start to get some impulsive moves to the upside, then they could step in and just intervene. But like I said, my eyes are on this 152.205 level.
Okay.
And
thanks.
We'll see what happens there. Last time we were there, they didn't intervene, but they had some strong talks about it, right? When we got here back in November, right? And we saw a push back down to the downside, also in line with some of the conversation around their potential monetary policy change. But I'm looking for these highs, potentially even an all-time high at that 152.205, which is the D extension on the daily time frame. Then we'll see what happens there. We'll monitor it closely to see, but that's what my thought is, and what I'm looking for.
Great. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. All right. Any other questions on the dollar yen? Oh, Benny, you got anything you got your eyes on, bro?
Can you check the S&P for me?
S&P, I think. That one did have an 80-20 a while ago. Let's see what we got. Coming down. So this is the one. Let me clean this up a little bit. Maybe. There we go. Take the cloud off. Boom. Pulling back. We got just shy. So we got a 382 retracement. Let's see if we put in a low there. Push to the upside, maybe. Now let's go back to the daily. Clean some of this out. Daily time frame. AB boundary shy that 118, 127 zone. This could be interesting. So if the dollar pulls back, maybe we get a push into the zone here.
Right. That's I know we're, we recently hit extensions on that S&P, so I'm wondering, when that correction will occur to the downside, because your commodity currencies typically follow, right?
Yep.
So I'm as I'm watching that Aussie, I'm watching that New Zealand dollar, I'm watching this S&P to see if it's due for a correction.
Correction time. I follow you on that.
Yeah.
Came just shy of that extension on the 4.
Right.
Yeah. This might be interesting. So maybe we get a pullback before we get the push, that last push to the upside.
Yep. And that, like you said, that dollar's bouncing around right now, So just continue to watch the fundamentals on that. Just things are just kind of in a weird spot right now. So
Yeah.
Where they can go either way, So I'm trying not to get caught up. I'm trying to hold my, my longer swing positions and stick to my guns, because it's kind of at a, kind of in the middle right now on what could happen. So I'm not really reacting too strongly to these short-term moves. With some of these currencies. So I'm just being patient, man. Stuff you learn after being in the markets for a while.
This is facts, bro. This is facts.
Just sitting back and definitely, really focus on this year, getting back to those larger moves, using those smaller time frames to really add to my position. Because when I was going back looking at my data from last year, there were a lot of times I was out of trades, looking to get back in a position when I should have really just been adding to that position. Because when you look at it, and sometimes you have to look back over a year in its entirety, like those yen pairs, right? Where I should have, instead of getting out, right? If you hold to your overall longer term idea, I should have been running that C to D, say on a 4 hour, and using my 1 hour fibs for opportunity to get back in at low prices.
Yeah.
And just add into that position, which means technically I would still be in those yen positions coming out of last year. You get what I'm saying?
Right.
So
right.
So just continuing to evolve as a professional trader, because some of those like that CAD yen, right? That's running 900 some pips to the upside on the daily, just continuing to, you know, and I do okay, but doing a better job of just nothing's really changing fundamentally. With the yen, for example, I should be adding to that yen position, right? So instead of that being, 900 some pips or whatever, it really should be double that.
And then 3,000-4,000.
Yeah.
Depending on the number of times you add.
Right. And I know that's could be like watching paint dry. There's nothing exciting about that. But it doesn't have to be. And really, when it stops being exciting, that's when you know you got it, right?
That's when you know you got it.
Yeah. So we've been right on a lot of these ideas, and we really should just be adding to these positions. So I'm looking forward to getting back to that, like I was when I was with my mentor years ago, because that's pretty much what he did, and just look to add to those positions and hold that. If it's a C to D push on the daily, it's going to go to the extension eventually. Should be looking to add positions in that, in that particular direction on your lower time frames.
Yeah.
So I think that's the beauty of what we do. That's the beauty of the Fibonacci sequence.
So let me ask this. In that adding, are you looking at taking some off and then adding it back at a low price, or keeping that original position as is, potentially moving that stop to break even, and then just adding a new position at a low price on a lower time frame?
That part is pretty much that part is subjective for me.
Okay.
Just depending on how much do I want to cash out. You know what I mean? That's almost like a field type thing.
Situational basis.
Yeah, it's kind of like a situational basis. That's a great question. How you feel, whether you want to take something off or not. But it's just like, these trades from the longer term have been moving in our direction for quite a while.
Yeah.
We've gotten it right. It's when you get caught in the weeds, and you fail to continue to see the larger overall picture, is when your account starts bouncing around on you. But when you look at these pairs that we've been trading, like the higher time frames told us what they wanted to do for the most part. You're not gonna win them all, but that's why you trade small. But once you get one going in your direction, like a Euro Yen, like a CAD Yen, like a Euro Swiss, once it gets running in your direction, looking on those lower time frames as an opportunity to add instead of, so often trying to get another position. That Aussie Yen, like that Aussie Yen was crazy hectic last year, but at the end of the day, it's moving in an upward direction.
It is.
Like
higher highs and higher lows.
Yeah, and we said that, right? That's been moving. So, using that mother chart, like when I back in the day, my mentor used the 4-hour, and he would go to the 2, but I prefer the 1, but using that 4-hour, that long move to the upside, and using that lower time frame to look to add to the position when you get a fib level that's in your favor based on your trade plan, on your 1 hour, whatever chart you decide to use off those pullbacks. So yeah. And you may get one opportunity to add, 2 opportunities, sometimes more, depending on the pair and how it's moving. But once you get that small position in, that 0.5%, that 1%, that 1/4% in, and it's going in your direction, keep that thing running. I think that's the beauty in what we do.
Yeah, man. I agree with you. I agree with you. When I've seen the most growth, it's been from that perspective.
Yep.
It's been from that perspective.
And that's when I've been at my best. So I always go back and remind myself when things are bouncing back and forth. I always go back to review. Always go back, like you were talking about yesterday, to the basics. Always go back to the basics to say, is my vision clear? Am I seeing this correctly? Just analyzing. And the only way you get to do that is if you're consistent, in your approach, so you can see where things may be off and things you need to tweak. So.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's
all.
That's truth. I had to do that this week, right? last week I had a losing week. And I, just like you remind yourself, I had to remind myself, all right, let's reset. Let's go back to the foundation and let's build. Right? Let's build. So it's so important. It's so important to come back to the basics, man. It's so key. So key. Cool. Team, you guys got anything you got your eyes on? Any questions about anything that we've covered or discussed this morning? No? No? All right. Benny, final thoughts, bro, before we wrap it up?
No, man. Great session as always. Just continue to be patient. I continue to be amazed at this game, and combining the technicals and the fundamentals and how they play out over the long term. It continues to just fascinate me each and every day. But like you always say, man, just continue to show up for yourself until you get this thing. Because once you get it, you got it, and it's a skill that nobody can take away from you. It's an awesome skill, the ability to print money. So yeah, that's it.
Yes, sir. All right, bro. Good people. Have a phenomenal Tuesday. We'll be back at it tomorrow morning, 6:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for the pre-New York session. Find your 1% today, and let's get back to the basics. We'll talk to you in the morning. Peace.
Thank you.
You're welcome.